Well, welcome back to another Play Action Football video. My name is Brian Hafferkamp. I'm the designer and creator of Play Action Football. In this video, I'm going to walk through something new that I plan to add to the newest season that's going to come out in 1991. And first part is kind of old. So this has been around for the whole time, I think, since I released Play Action Football, or at least a little bit after. And that is a digital game simulator. So basically I created a little application here for Play Action Football. You can see that I pulled it up, and I'll put the link in the description. So if you want to try it, or if you have the game and you don't know about it, then you can go and you can use this application. It's got two parts. It's got a dice roller and a game simulator. So just quickly, the dice roller, if you click on that and you roll your dice, it gives you the offensive roll, defensive roll, so those are your D6s. And then it gives you the play result roll, which is what you use for this page. Where is it? So that's the 2d10 roll that you use for this play results page. And then for the player, that's a single d10 that you would use on the player finder. So it gives you all the rolls that you need right here for every single play. And it does the 2d10s for you. It's randomized, so it's not actually rolling. And on top of that, it's quiet. So if you need a quiet dice roller, then so be it. And if you need an extra d10, you just click on the d10 and it gives you one, a random d10 roll. If you need a d6, you can click the d6. It gives you a random roll. If you need to do a d10 plus d10, then it gives you a random d10 plus d10. Same with the d6 plus d6. And then a d10 plus a d6, it gives you that roll as well. So if you should need those. If you needed to do d6 times d6, then you would say roll 1. So a 2 and a 4 would be a 24. So it does have those things. And then it's got a little counter if you want to do, you want to keep score at the same time. So you can roll and you can keep score digitally all at the same time. That is the dice roller. If you click here, you can go back and forth between the dice roller and the game simulator. The game simulator looks like this. And what this is for all the games that you don't want to actually play, which there's football games notoriously take a long time. This one is going to take you an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours to complete a game, which is faster than many, but still it's laborious to play an entire football game. So if you want to simulate a bunch of the games, and let's say you only want to do a one team replay, like for me it'd be the Vikings. I just want to play the Vikings, all their games, or I only want to play select games for the Vikings. Then I can simulate all the others. And so this actually gives you a simulation that you can do. And let's say this is what that will look like. You'd also use it as kind of a mini game for simulating an entire season, which is what I did yesterday. So you can see here, let me put this over here. So you can see this is 1991, and I created a schedule. So this team, I pre-filled all of their offense and defense numbers. You can see here, offense and defense. So for the Bears are somewhere on here. Where are they? I'm missing them. Surely they played week 1. There they are. So they're a 1 and a -1, 1 and -1. So you can see that. For the Bengals, they're a 1 and a 0. And Cincinnati's here, a 1 and a 0. So you can see. So I basically took all that data, I input it into each week. These games are kind of jumbled up, and I'll try to make it so that they're, early games, late games, Monday night football games. I'll try to get in and do that for the season. I sort of was trying to figure out like how I can programmatically create the schedule. So yeah, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And then it just goes down the page to week 6. You flip it over, it goes to week 12. And then on the back side, it goes all the way to week 17. And then these are all blank because you don't know what the playoffs are. So playoffs. So you can write in the teams. You have all of their offense and defense numbers because they're on here each week. And then you have a place for the score. I also put their seeding there so I would know, how they were seeded. I went through and I kept a spreadsheet of their wins and losses, every team's wins and losses, and then just sort of sorted the data. So, highest winning percentage, etc., and that kind of thing. And then I went through, and if two teams had head to head and they had the same score or the same record, I would go to their head to head. And if they didn't play head to head, I think that happened once. And I just picked one. So I want to say it happened to one of these lower seeded teams. So I just chose one. All the other teams kind of shook themselves out the way they should go. So then I played out the entire playoffs here. And so you can see, you play each team against each other. And I'm using this application here. And then you can go through and the Oilers wound up beating the Lions 24-17 that season. So that was a full season replay. That took me about an hour or so to complete the full replay and to do all of the calculations of the records and all that kind of stuff. It was actually interesting to see the moves and the changes throughout the season. So and I was just keeping track of how many I got right and that made it take a lot longer too. So I was actually trying to see how accurate this was at predicting the winners. Now, you get teams, a 1-2 and a 1-1. Those are pretty even teams. 1-1, 0-1. Those are relatively even teams. And in the NFL, you know how it is. It can go either way. And it was exactly the same in 1991. It was like, how did Houston get beat by Pittsburgh, right? And Pittsburgh is a 0-0. Houston is a 3-1. So it's just kind of wacky in some ways. And the game engine, you'll see it shifts and moves things, but it doesn't guarantee that everything is going to happen like you think. Now Houston went 14-2, which is what they did in real life. I think Buffalo went 12-4. They were really 13-3. So it's pretty close, but it's not going to come out exactly. When I was doing 2007, the Patriots never went undefeated. I did several simulations of the Patriots. They never went undefeated. They did go 15-1 a fair number of times, but never went undefeated in the regular season. They always get tripped up. Miami never went winless. I think they were 0-16 that year, and they never went winless. And so they were always 1-15, 2-14, something like that. But it's pretty close, to real life results. Close enough that you can say, okay, I'm going to base my real life replay on this. And I'm looking to make it, even more accurate all the time. These teams were all in the playoffs. These teams were all in the playoffs for real. The changes were the 49ers did not make the playoffs. The Lions did not make the playoffs. The Jets and Chiefs did. The Vikings did not make the playoffs, but they were a 2 seed. They went like 13-3. So something kind of a little bit ridiculous. I have nothing to do with that, but I was happy about it. They were 8-8 in the regular season. And one of the things is this, they're 1-1. So they're like in the meaty middle of the league, both offense and defense. They're playing a lot of games that could just turn one way or the other, which is how it could happen in real life, So there are there were a lot more oddities. Dallas didn't make the playoffs. The NFC had 3 teams that didn't make the playoffs. In fact, they were like 5-11. They were not good. Which again, they're sort of those teams. Maybe they won a bunch of close games and they got in. It doesn't account for the individual players on the teams. It accounts for like team performance. So take that for what it's worth, but it is a fun exercise. Okay, so the way that this works, let's say you printed off the schedule and you got a week 1 game, Atlanta at Kansas City. So this is the visitor team and this is the home team. You have the offense and defense numbers. So for Atlanta, they are a 1 and a 0. And for Kansas City, they're a 1 and a -1. So now we have our teams all set out. And this is going to be Atlanta at Kansas City. And then basically you just click Sim Game. And it's going to simulate the entire game for you. Now in this simulation, there are only 3 options. There's no score, there's a TD, there's a field goal. So I wanted to add kind of a quick play game to this that would serve as a simulator, or you could just quick play all the different games. And so this is what I came up with over time. And based on based on the one team's offense against the other team's defense, there is a change, and I'll show you that change. So it's like a plus minus, based off of the 2 teams on a matrix. I created that matrix in the code, and so it's just running and subtracting and adding and different things like that based off of these numbers you put in. So it needs those numbers to change to whatever they are, and then you run the simulation. If you come out with a tie, it'll tell you to sim overtime, and then it'll play overtime periods until there's a score. And once there's a score, the game's over. So whether it may come out that no team scores, and then it's just a tie. So you just do a tie. But 13, 14, and 15 are the overtime periods. These represent possessions. So 12, each team gets 12 possessions. They basically just go back and forth. So you start here at the visitor. They had no score. It goes to the home. No score, second possession, no score, second possession, TD. And then it adds in the TD. It doesn't calculate extra points. It just assumes TD 7 points. So there's not as much specificity. This is not a digital game, although I could make it one. But it's not a digital game. It's just meant to do a quick simulation to get you in the ballpark, and it works. So I've done the numbers for the most part. The AFC in this season that I simulated, I think the AFC had all but 1 or 2 teams that were in the playoffs, made it to the playoffs, and all the ones that you expect to do well did well. So we have this simulation here. 26-14 is the win for Kansas City over Atlanta, which Atlanta made the playoffs. In my simulation, they didn't do so well. They went 5-11, I believe, but they actually made the playoffs as a wild card. They were one of the last wild card teams. So Atlanta doesn't win. You can see that -1 on defense is important. So 1-0, a 1 -1, it's important. And you can play these 2 teams over again. You just click reset and you simulate, and you can see that Kansas City is just the better team. Now Atlanta scores more points here and there. They win one every once in a while. There's a win. And there's another win for Kansas City, another win for Atlanta. So they're relatively evenly matched. But it really is just about the dice rolls and how they affect each other. So probably 55%, 60% of the wins are going to go to Kansas City if you did a bunch of them. But I just do 1, and whatever the take is, that's what I write down. So I would have wrote 14 and 26. You go to the Cowboys, they're a 1 -1, and they're a 1 -1. So these are 2 evenly matched teams between the Browns and the Cowboys. And okay, we have a tie. So 17-17, kind of a dud second half, as neither team scored very much. And then you can see that it changes to sim overtime. So you sim overtime, and Dallas wins on their first possession. So they score TD, and they win that one 24-17 in overtime. So that's how that will work. Philadelphia, they're a 0 on offense, but a -3 on defense. So that's as good as you can be. And for Green Bay, they're a 0 with a -1. So both teams with good defenses and very poor offenses. So this should be a low-scoring game. But of course it's not. So 34-3. The Eagles roll over the Green Bay Packers. But if you play that one out a few times, you're going to get, some lower scores. 9-6. Clearly, their -3 defense is important. So you get some lower scores in there sometimes. All right, so that's how the digital version works. And then you would just go down. You do week 1. You set up your standings and your calculations. I just use a spreadsheet on Google Sheets and then set up all the different divisions. I give them a win or a loss, and then I just recalculate based off of calculate their winning percentage. Just do a formula. It's wins divided by wins plus losses, and then that gives you their winning percentage. And then you can just sort by their winning percentage. And then you kind of keep those stats as you go along. I think for this season, I did all of the rolling first. I went back and then I calculated all the wins for each team. And then there's only 16 games available. So if you know the wins, you know the losses. So that is how I did it for each of those teams. And then I set all up the playoffs and everything and then rolled those playoffs. So this is just one sheet here. I just printed off one part, but like I showed you before, it's front, back, and then another front. That is the schedule. I will include that schedule. And at the very least, if you want to play out all those games, you'll have a way to keep a schedule. Okay, so this is the digital version. Again, I'll put the link in the description. You'll get the dice roller application and you'll get the simulator. So with those two things, you can go online and you can have a nice dice roller. All right, so let's get back out to one here. Now this represents the same thing that you saw online, but converted over into dice rolling. Now what you're going to need is a 1 to 100 dice roll. So for me, I've been using these two dice for the kicking game. So you can see that the kicking game now is on a 1 to 100 roll. So you can use 2d10s and just designate one as a 10 and one as a 1. Like if you were doing this. If you were using these 2d10s, you would designate this one as the 10s place and this one as the 1s place. So that's a 93. Okay, so that's how you would do that. I'm just using this D100 with a D10, and then this gives me the 10s and this gives me the 1s. Just because to me it's not easier to read, it's just kind of easier to, for some reason in my head. All right, so we have our visitor. Hopefully you can see those pretty well. Yeah, like that. Okay. So this is a game right here. This is a game. So there's 4 games on this sheet. You can see we have all our possessions down to 15, just like we did on the app. Maybe it helps to see them side by side. So I basically just took this application and ported it over to something you could write on. Now I had to bring the game engine, which is hidden here, I had to bring it to the forefront so you can see it. So that's what all this stuff is up here. So all these things, I had to bring the game engine out. So let's say we have Falcons Saints. The Falcons are a 1 on offense, a 0 on defense. The Saints are a 1 on offense and a -2 on defense. Now, I've got these numbers 0 and plus 13. That is the actual adjustment that gets made in the background whenever you put in those numbers here. So if you put in 1 and a 0 and a 1 and a -2, whenever you click on roll or simulate game, it makes these calculations. So there's a matrix that I'm basically using. If the offense is this and the defense is this, then you're going to make these adjustments. And basically what it does is goes, if the offense is a +3, then you add this amount to the roll. And then after that, if the defense is a -2, then you're going to subtract that amount from the roll. And then it gives you like a final number. So you do the addition and the subtraction from the roll result, and it gives you a number. That is always set. So when you're doing it by hand, you can use this matrix here. So you can see that the Falcons are a 1 on offense. The Saints are a -2. So you look at your offensive number, a 1, and you go and you cross-reference it with a -2. So a 1 offense against a -2, there's no adjustment to the play. So that's going to be whatever you roll, that's what you're going to get. Same thing if you have a +3 offense against a -3, that's a 0. But if you have a +2 and a -2, then the offense, the roll gets a +7. So it's not just if they're even, then it's 0. So don't think about it that way. The Saints are a 1 on offense, and the Falcons are a 0. So a 1 down to a 0, that's +13 on the roll. This is on your D100 roll, by the way. So if you're playing a +3 offense against a 0 defense, they're going to get a 25 on every roll. So you can see how it would, you'll see how it changes things when you have a really good offense against a really bad defense. So you use that sheet to come up with these numbers here. We have a 0 for the Falcons. We have a +13 for the Saints. So on every roll that we have, we are going to either add 0 or +13, depending on which team that we have. And that's per drive, per team. Now, the third part of the game engine is this evaluation. So this is the adjustment that we make to the roll. So we have a roll, we have an adjustment, and then now we have to evaluate that roll against each team's numbers. Now these are their actual scoring numbers. So their actual touchdown and field goal percentages for the year based off of a per drive. So these are touchdowns per drive and field goals per drive. So it took a little fancy getting there to get to that, some mathematics on the back end. But I've created a spreadsheet that has every 1991 team, and it has all of their ranges here. So 70% of the time, the Falcons are not going to score on a drive. So 9% of the time, they're going to score TD. And 19% of the time, they're going to score a field goal. For the Saints, it's 69% where they don't score. 12% of the time, they're going to score TD. And 17% of the time, they're going to score field goal. It's actually 18% and 20%. So let me show you how this works. So we're going to roll our dice. Got our D100. And let's just go visitor home. I sometimes roll like a 1 to 50 is the visiting team wins the coin toss. 51 to 100, the home team wins. And then you can do choosing. But essentially, whoever receives in the first half is going to not start the second half. And you can think of these halves as that's 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, and then overtime. That's really terrible there. So every 3, well, it's 6 possessions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every 6 possessions, you go to another quarter, and then you've got your quarters down here. You can just set your score, and I'll show you. We're just basically doing everything that we did on the app by hand. So I just ported the entire game engine over to Cards and Dice. So if you want the game engine to be open to you, and you want to change these, you want to change this matrix because you think it's out of whack, the game engine will be open to you to do that. If you use the application, the game engine will not be open to you to do those. So, first up, we'll just go Falcons, Saints, Falcons, Saints. So we have a 26. 26 plus 0 is 26. 26 falls into the 1 to 70. That's no score, so I'm just going to put that there. And now for the Saints, they have a 40. 40 plus 0 is 40. And they have a 13, so that's a 53. That still falls within 1 to 69. No score for the Saints. We have a 71 for the Falcons. Now that falls into 71 to 80, and so that is going to be a TD for the Falcons on their second possession. We get a 10 plus 13. That's another no score for the Saints. And to end the first quarter, we get an 80. 80 is here right at the top of their TD range, so another touchdown for the Saints. They lead 14 to nothing. And a 12 is not going to do it for the Saints. So after the first half, we have a 14-0 lead for the Falcons over the Saints. And again, this is exactly how it happens in the application. And it just does it really fast and not so slow. Okay, so we come back to the Falcons. 56 falls into the no score. So their first possession in the second quarter is no score for the hometown Saints. They are still having a hard time. That's another no score. A 25, another low roll for the Saints. Okay, a 94, it falls in the field goal range. And a 64 becomes a 77. So finally, the Saints break through for a touchdown just before the half. They've got a 7 and 3. So 17-7 is our score. Sorry, these allergies are crazy and it's raining today. Makes it even worse. So if you wanted to flip-flop and do home, then visitor this time, you could do that if you want to. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep going. They get an equal number of possessions. So a no score could have been a turnover. It could have been whatever. This game could be a lot more detailed than it is just to fill stats. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. The concern is, did they score or did they not score? So if you want to keep stats, it could go in a different direction. But for this, we're just trying to simulate the game and get scores at the end. So 46 to the Falcons is a no score. A 37 becomes a 50. A 50 is a no score for the Saints. Saints find themselves down by 10, and so they really need to find some scoring offense here in the second half. They need some high numbers, and they are definitely not getting them. Again, they have to cross the 69 threshold in order to score. We get a 96. That's going to be another field goal just before the end of the third quarter. And for the Saints, it's another low roll. So we get 3 here, and we get 0 there. So it's now 20-7. And the Saints are going to need quite a comeback here in the fourth. 45, that's a no score. 24, another low roll for the Saints. They're running out of time. 34 is no score. They have to score on the last 2 possessions here to win the game. And 89, so 99, so that pushes them up to 100. That's going to be a field goal. So anything over 100, I'm just giving them a field goal. Anything less than 0, I'm just giving them a no score. So that makes it 20-10, and there really is no way for the Saints to win after a field goal. 72, that's going to be a touchdown for the Falcons as they seal the deal in their last possession. And 95, that's another field goal to end the game. So they wind up getting 6 in the fourth, and they get a TD. So 21 plus 6 is 27 and 13. So 27-13 is the final as the Falcons beat the Saints. Saints with a better offense, and they're playing at home. You could give a little home field advantage bump if you wanted to. Not necessary, but you could if you wanted to. So 27-13 is our final, and that's how you would play it out. And so you would set up, let's say you want to set up the next game. Let's go with, let's play the Vikings. Actually, here's a good matchup. Kansas City and Houston. So Kansas City at Houston would be Chiefs at the Oilers. This is what is this, week 3 of the 91 season. So the Oilers are a 3 -1 and the Chiefs are a 1 -1. So when you look at our sheet here, for the Oilers, we look at their offense against the Chiefs defense. So a 3 to a -1, that's going to be a +15. And we look at the Chiefs offense against a -1. So a 1 to a -1 is a +3. So they get a little bump for having that +1 offense. So that's all you have to do to figure those things out. Let me go and write down their all of these. Hold on. All right, and I'm back with all the, and this is the sheet here that has all of the calculations for each team. I am also going to switch these over. So I've been flirting around with should the field goals be last, should the TDs be last. Originally, the app has been set up for the field goals to be last. No. The app is set up for the field goals to be in the middle and the TDs to be last. It makes sense to me that if the roll is 100 and you subtract 20, that should keep a bad team from scoring a TD. It should bump them into the field goal range because it's a good defense. A minus, like you have a 0 rated offense against a -3 defense against the Eagles defense from 1991. They get a -20 on each roll. So that should bump them off a TD first into a field goal, or bump them off of a field goal into a no score. That makes sense to me. Here I was playing whatever was a field goal should have been a TD and vice versa. So I screwed that up a little bit. All right, let's do this one. This is more in line with what I'm doing. It doesn't have anything, nothing has changed with the matrix here. I'm just going to have to combine these two so that you have one sheet for 1991. And then you'll have the, you'll have this as well. And then you'll have this. So this is to keep track of the game. This is to keep track of the season. And this tells you what each team's numbers are. So you can see the Oilers are 1 to 67 for a no score. So 67% of the time they don't score. They're a 68 to a 78. So 11% field goals, 11% of their drives in on field goals, and fully 22% finish with a touchdown. So 79 to 100. They're playing the Chiefs. This is Kansas City. They're a 1 to 70. So you see that they no score about 3% more. They're a 13% field goal percentage, so they kick more field goals, and they are at 17% TD percentage, which is about 5% lower than the Oilers. So their opportunities to score TDs are lower. Their opportunities to score at all are going to be lower. But it should be a high scoring affair just because the Oilers have a -1 defense. Now, if the Chiefs' offense was better, let's say they had a 2 offense against a -1, then it would be a +10. Excuse me. But as it is, they just are not a very good. They're an average offense. They're not a good offense. 2 is good. 3 is great. 1 is average to below average. And then on offense, a 0 is a terrible offense. They're like bottom 5, 6 in the league. They get no extra help against anybody's defense. So, all right, so let's play this one out. Chiefs at Oilers. And we got all of our stuff set up here. I'll go ahead and fix this on the spreadsheets before I release anything. So this will be field goals and TDs. That's how I have it set up with all of the statistics. So first possession, and 83, that's a good one. So it's here in the field goal range. 83 becomes 86, and that pushes them into the TD range. So first drive for the Chiefs is a touchdown. It's a good start. 31 plus 15 is 46, and that's going to be nothing for the Oilers. We get a 90, 93, another TD, 2 possessions, 2 TDs for the Chiefs. For the Oilers, a 98 plus 15, that pushes them to a TD. Well, they were already in the TD range. And it's 14-7, high scoring first quarter. 74 plus 3, that puts them into the field goal. So 3 possessions, 3 scores for the Chiefs. And a 0-8 is going to be nothing. So after one quarter, it is 17-7. Chiefs over the Oilers. Chiefs with the ball. That's going to be nothing here in the second quarter for the Chiefs. 68 becomes 78, 83. Becomes 83. That'll be a field. Oh, that's actually a touchdown into their TD range. So it becomes a touchdown. Now 17-14. 46 is going to be nothing for the Chiefs. And for the Oilers, a 92 is another touchdown. So 2 possessions in a row, 2 TDs. We get to the last part of the first half. It's a 26. That's nothing. And a 61. 71-76 becomes a field goal. So you can see how their offense is prolific. 17 points in the second quarter, and they take a 24-17 lead at the half. Not a lot of defense in this one. This will be another touchdown for the Chiefs coming out of the half. A 41 is a 56. That's nothing for the Oilers. 38 is nothing for the Chiefs. 49 is 59, 64. 64 is a no score. And 82 plus 3 is 85. That pushes them into a TD. So at the end of the third, the Chiefs get another TD. 88. 93 pushes them into a TD. So at the end of the third quarter, both teams score. It'll be 7 for the Chiefs, and 14 for the Chiefs and 7 for the Oilers. 24-31 to 31 is our score. So going into the fourth quarter, got a tight game here. It's a high scoring game. The Chiefs get no score. 43-48, that's no score. 2 possessions left for each team. A 61 becomes a 64, that's no score. The Oilers clutch. 96, that'll be a TD for Houston. One more opportunity for the Chiefs. A 67 becomes a 70, and that's a no score. They could have had a field goal, but field goal wouldn't have done anything for them. And for the Oilers, a 74 becomes an 89, and that's another TD. So they put up 14 points in the fourth quarter, and they take this one by a score of 45-31. So that's how that works. The Oilers' lack of offense, or lack of defense in this entire game is only bested by their offense, which was prolific. It was a prolific offense. So 45 is definitely not unheard of for them, especially against an average defense. All right, so that's how you would go start to finish. You would need these. You need this matrix, which opens up the adjustments to the offense. So this is the defensive adjustment or the roll adjustment. And then you need something to evaluate the roll against, which this is all of the teams from 1991. And we have all of their no scores. So you can see here the Colts, 1 to 85. They were 1 in 15. And so 85% of the time they do not score. There's another bad team, the Cardinals, the Bucks. Anytime you see an 80. The Bills only go with no score 62% of the time. So there are a few teams in the 60s. The Saints, the Jets, the 49ers, and the Redskins. Only 50% of the time they go without a score. So the Redskins ripping in this game. That was a pun. Anyway, so you would get that, you would get the schedule, and then basically you would come in and you would write down what the final score is, 45-31. And then you would be able to have all of your games on one sheet. Not on one sheet, but you'd have them on your sheets. And then you can have all of your scores, your weekly scores on one sheet. And I'm also considering having a team, one sheet per team that lists what they did for the week. You could put their totals, like total rushing, total passing, total receiving, total defense, blah, 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 all those different things. And then you would have like a team summary sheet. So week 1 through 16, you would see all their results. You would see the yardages and things like that they did on for total offense and stuff like that. So don't know if that's a good idea or if you would like to have something like that. But as you're playing through the season, you'll be able to just kind of record that. I've done that in the past just on a spreadsheet where I'm trying to like see what's, total yardage in the game. If I do a whole replay, what's that going to come out to? You obviously wouldn't be able to do that. You would only be able to generate scores this way. But if you're playing a whole season, you could at least with your team see, okay, they had, 3,800 yards rushing or whatever it was. Probably not 3,800 yards rushing, but 3,800 yards passing and 1,800 yards rushing or whatever. So you would be able to have that full team summary for the year. You would be able to put their total passing yards and rushing yards and receiving yards and all this stuff. Plus all the weekly scores that they scored. And then obviously if you're playing using these cards and you're rolling out every single play, you're going to get more realistic results than if you just simulate everything. But this sim is pretty good. It's about 60% hitting what happened in real life. So I don't know if I can make it better than that. Just because there's so much variability between, let's say, these 3 teams are relatively equal. So even though they're 10 and 6, they're 3 and 13, but they're both a 1 and a 0. So who did the Bengals have to play? They had to play, they played Pittsburgh, they played, who else would they have played? Indianapolis, Cleveland. So kind of a middling in the AFC Central, not a lot of super strong division. But if they had to go out and they had to play the Oilers and they had to play the Broncos and they had to play the Jets, and that just the AFC was tough in 1991. So just the fact that you had to play the AFC says a lot. But the Bears, 1 and -1, were 11 and 5. So a little bit softer schedule playing against the NFC North. The Lions were a challenge. But if you didn't play the NFC East very much, you could walk through the NFC, which the Bears had a good defense and some stuff like that too. So a lot of things come into play as to why a team wins on any given Sunday. So This game feels sometimes like it has a ton of variability to it, but it's one of those where you got to play it. It's kind of long over time, and you see everything shake out like it's supposed to. But on a week-to-week basis, if you watch the NFL, even if you look at the scores from this season, you're like, how in the world did that happen? How did Buffalo get blown out by that team? And then how did the Oilers get blown out by that team? But you see that kind of stuff all the time. How did the 49ers get blown out by people? That was the Steve Young, and I don't remember who else was on the team, but Steve Young was a quarterback for that team. And it was like those 49ers and Dallas Cowboy teams right before they popped and they started getting into championship after championship and winning Super Bowls. This is right after the Denver Broncos Super Bowl kind of era at the end of the 80s. So, they're still a good team. Dangerous team. Not what they were. Not what they would be later in the 90s, but still dangerous. And, it's just like week-to-week performances seem to be all over the place in the NFL. And so this game is no different whenever you're just looking at things week to week. So you got the Bills here. They beat the Lions 24-10. But the Colts, who are a 1-15 team, play them 31-27. But that kind of stuff happened all the time. If you go back and you look at the scores, that stuff happened all the time. So how does that work? I don't know. I just know that the NFL is exciting. Parity has made everything more exciting. And there are some really good teams like the Oilers. They could have beaten this team 45-10. But, 17 points in the first quarter. It could have happened. The Oilers defense was average. It wasn't great. So, you can see why I wanted to roll this into another video, because it's a whole system just for simulating games. And again, you can do all of that and save the paperwork and all that kind of stuff just by going to the game simulator application here. I'll put that link in the description. So if you have Play Action Football and you want to use this, it's free to use. Like I said, when you come into it, you're just going to get the splash screen. Let's see if we can get that. There you go. You're going to get the splash screen. You can choose the dice roller or the game simulator. You just choose the simulator. And then if you wanted to come back over to the dice roller, you can. You can go back and forth between those just by clicking the little name and icon at the top. And again, you just choose whatever the level of offense and defense is for the visitor, for the home. Click sim game. Even with nothing in there, it's going to simulate something. Don't know what it's using. It's using just the roll itself. So if you want to see what the game engine is with just the roll, that's what you get with just the roll. So then you add in the offense and defense together based on that matrix I showed you with the pluses and minuses. And basically this matrix is the totals. So behind the scenes, when you do a 0 rated offense against a -3 defense, I believe that's a straight up -20 when you're playing a -3 defense. So if you're playing a -3 defense, it's an automatic 20 off. If you have a 0 offense, you get no bump whatsoever, I don't believe. Or maybe it's 5. Maybe you get a 5 bump. If you have a 0 defense, then you actually give 5 to the other team. So I don't remember what the actual numbers are. I'd have to look that up, but that represents the addition of what do we add to the offense and what do we subtract from the defense. Those are the final numbers. So that you don't have to do any of that math. It's just all set out before you, but I assure you that's what it is. If I could pull up the developer tools on here, I would show you, but I don't have access to that on the phone, just on the computer. So you can see if you want to do things very easily, you can use it here. It gives you all the same things that I just told you. It shows you the line score and the totals here, and it shows you how everybody scored. If you wanted to make a more detailed game off this, we could make a more detailed game both online and on the tabletop. and maybe one day it would make sense to just sort of spin that off into its own quick play game, where you could purchase this or that. But at this point, I'm planning to add this to the purchase of Play Action Football. So what my goal is to get you to a complete simulation system, a complete football simulation system that includes everything you need to play play-by-play. It includes everything you need to do quick simming of games that you don't want to do, or just games that you just want to move through it faster and only do simulation and quick play. You could do that too. You want to simulate weeks 1 through 6, see where you're at, and then see who's playing who, and maybe get a chance to play some of the teams that you don't necessarily think about, but you want to say, oh, they're doing better than their pace in real life. Maybe I should do that. One thing to think about as I went through all of these games and simulated them is you might find a team that wins like 3 out of their first 4, and then they drop like 7 in a row, which, because I'm thinking, oh, they're going to be ahead of the playoff pace. They're going to make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden they lose like 7 or 8 in a row, and you just think, wow, that tanked their season. So that kind of stuff happens too, because it's based off who you're playing and when you're playing them, and that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting to see, and I hope that you will purchase the game so that you can play it. Let me know if you'd like to see this just as its own quick play simulation system. I could sell it for a cheaper price, and you could just get what you needed for that to be able to play just the quick plays, the simulations, without having to do all the play-by-play stuff here. But the game is super fun. You should really try it out. I like it. It takes some work to get through it, but it's not as cumbersome as some other football games, dice football games. And tell me what you think down in the comments. Is this interesting to you? Is it something that you had hoped for in a game? Is it something you haven't hoped for in a game? You could obviously use this with to simulate other games if you wanted to. If you're playing Second Season or Cold Snap or whatever you want to play, you could still use these ratings. These ratings are based off of their actual numbers, so you could use these ratings as a simulation system for another game, where you use their game engine to play the games you want, and then you use this to simulate all the games that you don't necessarily want to, including using the online simulator. You just need these values, which these values come with the game. So you can see on here that all these values are sort of proprietary. I get to them the way I get to them, and I'm not necessarily showing those things off, because then you could just do the game yourself. But I do get to those numbers through ways that make sense, a lot like with precision baseball, when you decide, between the pitcher and the hitter, who you're going to start the at-bat with. It's a similar type of system where I take a lot of the rankings of a lot of different statistics against the average, and then roll those up into a single number, and then you evaluate each team based off of that number. It's worth so many points to be this much better than a defense, that type of thing. So we'll keep that behind the vault a little bit, and you will get to see the end result. So this offensive matrix does give you the end result, and basically the game engine would be, these two would be the game engine, and then you would get these for play-by-play of each game, playing out each game, and then you would get the schedule. The schedule has like 3 pages. So 6 weeks, 6 weeks, and then the third page would have the last 5 weeks plus the playoffs, which fit very neatly all together, as you can see. So 6 weeks, week 1 to 6, week 6 to 12, or 7 to 12, and then weeks 13 to 17 plus the playoffs. So it all kind of just fits together very nicely into a nice little package. So I will be adding that to the game. All of these are going to be added together. It'll be presented in a better looking package probably than what it is right now. This was just to test it out, and I'll continue to test those things out as well. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments section. Tell me if this is something, a valuable addition to the game, to the football gaming community, to play action football specifically. And tell me if this was something that you would want to roll out into its own quick football simulation game. And we can talk about doing that and just selling this quick sim game by itself. So you would kind of like a what is it, momentum football or something like quick. There's other like little quick play score generator type games out there. And this is like that, but it's made specifically to be used with play action football. But again, if you have all the ratings, then you would have them, and that's all that you would need in order to play the game. When I played this season out here, this was literally all that I had, was just the schedule, and I used the online dice roller, and then I just recorded the scores, tallied everything up by hand, and then played out the playoffs. So I wasn't using this part by hand, but if you wanted to do everything by hand, or you just felt like you want to be real hands-on, you could use this to keep score for everything. So I think that's it. If you want to pick up the current seasons for play action football, or you want to play the demo, so there's a 4-team demo that you can play that has the last 4 teams from the 2023 football season. Go to clarkandaddisongaming.com, and I'll put the link directly to the game in the description below. But you can go to always clarkandaddisongaming.com. On the front page, you'll see under the new releases, any of the new play action football releases, as well as any of the new baseball releases. Just released 1986 for on-base baseball. It's kind of unofficial announcement. If you want to get in, the Facebook group has known about that for a while, maybe 3 or 4 days. And so if you want to get in on early bird information, any sales that are only going to happen for Facebook group members, that type of stuff, join the Facebook group. Go to Facebook groups, look up Clark and Addison Gaming Company, answer a few questions, agree to the group rules. It's a private group, so trying to keep spammers out and anybody that's just not there for, the games that I make and that you play. So answer those, agree to the group rules, and I'll let you in. And then that's where I post everything first. So these videos that I've made today, they're going to go there first before I post them anywhere else. Sometimes that's the only place where things are going to be posted. So if it feels like I've gone quiet on some of the other groups, you just need to look up the Clark and Addison Facebook group and see that that's, if you join, you'll know that that's where I'm posting and saying a bunch of stuff. So just get on there and join the group. We are at, almost 100 people on the group now. You're going to get more game news if you watch to the end of all these videos. I'm always talking about something going on, or something new, or some little behind the scenes tidbit about the games or what I'm thinking. This is a great place for me to be able to share that one-on-one with you. And so if you want to get more of that, subscribe and you'll be notified of when new videos come. If you just like the video or the content, just give it a thumbs up. Super easy way to support what I'm doing here. Purchasing a game, a good way to support what I'm doing here. Sharing the Facebook group, or sharing the website, clarkandaddisongaming.com. Those are all really good ways to help spread the word about the games that I make. And I make football, basketball, and baseball at this point. There's a golf game out there if you want to play it. I'd be happy to send you the link to the GitHub repo, which has the files you can download and you can play that. It's an interesting take on golf, and not convoluted, but just I think it can be better. That's why I haven't officially released it or anything like that. But I do have a one golf course, 4 golfers, and then all the charts and everything that you need to play that. So it's the Georgia course, very famous Georgia course. So you can take a look at that. I don't think I can slap the actual name on there, but it is the Georgia course, and I created all the holes myself. So, yeah, that's what it is. But there's all kinds of fun things in there, like weather and wind. And each golfer has their own sort of unique abilities, whether they're really good at putting, or they're good at driving the ball far, or they have a lot of accuracy, or they're good out of the rough, or whatever, is good out of the sand. So it's an interesting take and kind of arcade almost version of a golf game, and has some really fun and quirky elements. I know people have asked me about, when is that going to be released, and when am I going to do more courses and more golfers. And so I can see that there's some momentum building in the background of people who want to play that game. But I have too many ideas for baseball and football and basketball at this point, and those really just are the larger communities of gamers who are playing. Golf is not a huge tabletop gaming community, even though some people like it. The majority of the people are in baseball, football, and in basketball. So I'm going to stick with there, and as long as I have those ideas, I may come around to the golf game. I played it maybe 2 or 2.5 months ago, sometime during the summer. I just thought, I just want to play it and dink around with it, see if there's something else that I can do. I can't think of anything right offhand like that would make the game better. I think it's just a matter of creating more golfers, creating more courses. I have an idea to do the best course in each state. So all real courses that I can't put their actual names on there, but it would be listed by state. So the best course in Florida, I have an idea of that one. The best course in Michigan, the best course in New York or California or whatever it is. Maybe California would be next. There's a very obvious one in California that you could do, very famous. And so maybe I can replicate that as well. So lots of different things. These things are always going through my head. This is just a port. This is not new. It's just a port over something I already did. So it didn't take a lot of time to develop it. I just have to kind of bring it out from the shadows in the black box of the code and put it in a way that we can consume it on the tabletop. So created that just over the last few days. And so I do plan to add this to the 1991 season. So you'll have a sort of a quick play option. And I'll also go back and rate what do I have? I'll go back and rate 1985 and 2007 and 2023 as well, and be able to give you those throughout. I have a couple of more ideas with this. Thinking about how to do this sort of in season, so you can play along with the season. That might be kind of cool. We do the projected roster sheet sets for home-based baseball, and that happens because people are doing years-long projections of baseball players. I don't think that's happening where people are projecting football teams, but if you're aware of that somewhere along the way, just let me know, and maybe we can do a projected football set that you can play along with the actual season. That would be kind of cool. And yeah, otherwise this game is getting really close. I've got to go back and do all the stadiums for 1991. Shouldn't be so much different than 1985, but there might be some new ones. So I'll need to go back. Could be new names on old stadiums. So I'll go back and I'll make those changes to the rule book. I'll add this into the rule book as well, or just maybe I'll spin off its own guidebook for that. And then I'll add in all the new rules and penalties, and just there are some administrative kind of things that I need to do from this point. But right now I need to know, is this something valuable to you? Is this good? Is this something you would want to see in the game? If you've played it before, do you have any other solutions, or is there something amiss? Maybe my calculations are a little too heavy or too light or whatever. So just let me know. All right. Again, click subscribe if you haven't. You'll get these videos right to your email, however you're notified of new to YouTube content. It'll be on your homepage whenever you log in. It'll be in your feed whenever you go to the app, and you'll know when I post new videos. It's usually a few a week. It's been a little bit slower here lately, but I've just been busier. But I try to get out some content whenever I can. Usually anywhere from 1 to 3 pieces of content a week. Playing a game, trying something out, showing you something new. So there's lots of different stuff that's going on here. I'm not just doing replays for every single video. If you want to go back through the archive, just click on videos and you can see all the different videos that I've posted. Some are on base baseball. We got new on base baseball physical products that are coming out. I've ordered the 1986 Pocket Edition. Those should be coming to me probably mid-October. I got word that somebody who had ordered theirs is about to get theirs. It's on the way for 1980. So hopefully you'll begin to see those play out, and that people are getting those so you can purchase the Pocket Edition for 1980. Also the roster sheets, printed roster sheets for those. And I would love to know, does anyone even want the printed roster sheets? Because they're a little bit more of a pain in the neck to produce. But if people like those, it's like a whole season in a little small binder that you can just take with you wherever. So if you're interested in that, then just let me know, and I will continue to produce those for the 86 season. Otherwise, it's just not if people prefer the Pocket Edition over the printed roster sheets, I want to, put my time and energy where people care about stuff. Right now, sales are, sorry, these allergies, man, they're crazy. Sales are a little bit more, so maybe 10-20% more for the Pocket Edition than for the printed roster sheets. So I can't really tell if people prefer one over the other. So just let me know in the comments if you prefer one or the other, if you have any strong opinions about that. And hopefully everyone's okay who was part of a hurricane. I don't know if I have too many people who are members here. Not members, subscribers who are in those areas. But if you're along the East Coast, hoping for better things for you weather-wise, and that things begin to dry out. But it's a really hard situation, I know, to go through. And yeah, sorry that has to happen. Really sorry about that. So hoping and praying that things are good for you there along the East Coast and Southeast. And for everybody everywhere else, I appreciate your support over these last 3 or 4 years that I've been making games, since 2021, I want to say. 21 was the first year I released something. So 3.5 solid years. Baseball season is over, almost. And we're getting into that. I will be, once the regular season is over, this is sort of my plan moving into the future, is to produce On Base and Precision Baseball. And I'm hoping to get both of those out before the playoffs end, so that you can play out the playoffs, either pre-play them or play along with them. It takes a while to get the playoffs finished. That's possible the World Series could happen in November. So you get that month. It takes me a few days to do On Base Baseball And I think it's only going to take a week or so to do precision baseball, since I already have, there's no new stadiums, so that work has all been done, and it really is just going to be about the rosters and the players. So I think everything else that needs to be done is done. So it really is just like focusing on the players and then getting that new set out for 2024, and then you'll be able to play precision baseball. You can replay this season, begin a replay, or play out the playoffs. So hopefully I can get my card making process down where that's fast enough to do that. I think it will be. I've also got 2003 for precision baseball. It's in process. I still have to do some work on the game guide, I think, for that. Otherwise, most everything is finished for that one. Some of these bigger games like this, it just takes a little bit more time because I'm kind of still tinkering with things. So I appreciate your patience, appreciate everybody's patience and support along the way. Just want to make the best games I can and give people, put them in their hands and let them have the most fun that they can on the tabletop. All right, I have gone on long enough, and appreciate you listening if you made it this far. And go out, purchase some games, have fun, enjoy your time rolling this weekend. And thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.